Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
too. Thank you.
Sandy, you don't have to stay on. I can log back on and end the meeting for everybody once the facilities committee's done.
Can I just make you the host and then I can log off?
Yeah, that's fine. Do that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Betsy Koch is on as a panelist, which conceptually speaking is not a problem because Mike McHugh's not here. At least some reason I see Betsy here. She has no video or audio on. But I think she was calling it from the car or something, if I'm not mistaken, if I recall. But we still don't have a quorum of the governing body, so we're fine.
You
there.
can expel her if you'd like. There's that option.
Yeah, but that's up to you guys. I mean, I don't have
care.
We don't have a quorum.
I'm a fan of Betsy. She can stay if that's fine with you guys. Josh, you're on mute.
I like that. I don't see Andy Ashwell's name on there, but he was on before. Is he aware that we're going to be meeting?
He told me he was flying and he was landing and he was going to call in when he landed. But I don't recall seeing his name there. I'm not saying it wasn't on there. I just was otherwise, focusing on something else.
Yeah, he's not on the list at this point. So should we tackle the owner's rep conversation at this point?
I believe that's what you guys had in mind.
Yeah.
I did forward the synopsis and the full presentations to this entire group. The mayor had some general thoughts. I don't know if I'm sure you and him talk, Chris, so I'll turn it over to you guys to kind of take it from here.
I'll defer my time to the mayor to start.
Yeah, so it's just my general thought in the interest of moving this process along, that we have, in my opinion, two main options. I could seek out additional owners reps that we can ask for proposals and interview and give us additional options to what Teresa had sent out. The other option is to narrow it down to, what I would call a top two that we think would fit the needs of these buildings and the construction of these buildings the best for the borough of Fairhaven, and maybe seek a second interview with them and include additional people in those interviews beyond the scope of Josh, Chris, Teresa, and Rich per se. I don't know how everyone feels about that. I don't know how everyone feels about the spreadsheet that was sent out and the raw materials. I don't know what everyone feels about an owner's rep in general, but I do think we need to make a concrete move in one direction or the other and make a decision what we want to do here.
Andy, you put some thoughts together. Do you want to just share them with the committee?
I don't have those notes in front of me, but I can tell you just, I really think before you go forward with another RFP or speaking to others, I think you really have to decide what your the scope of services that you think are necessary. I haven't seen scope of services yet. I mean, a couple of these folks, they touch upon a few things. I think some of them overlap with what we would expect Eli's office to be doing. But I think you really need to think about that a little bit more. Present that to, Josh, like you said, if you had two firms that you think you liked, I mean, the problem with requests for proposals, quite frankly, is if you don't know what you need, then it's not fair to the professional as to what they ask for prices. So if you met with a few people and you had a certain connection, whether it's personality, whatever it is, if you had a certain connection, then if you want to call in those two, I think you should really have a scope of services telling them what you expect them to do. And if they don't agree, if they think there's additional things that need to be done or things that don't need to be done, they should share that with you and then give a proposal based on that. But right now, I'm seeing numbers, but I don't know what we're getting for it.
This is Dan, just real quick, coming from the engineering perspective. So this is really more Andy's bailiwick from a owner's rep perspective. But, I didn't look at them all, to be honest with you, but I did look at a couple of them, and the range of scope that these different organizations are proposing on, it's very different. So you're not looking, if you look at those, they're not even close to apples. So yeah, you might want to pick 2 or 3 of them and come up with a straightforward, scope of services, and then have them come back with, best and final, for lack of a better word. But yeah, you're not right now. I don't think you have a definitive enough scope to pick one versus another. I definitely saw ones that I thought were better than others, but I don't know that you got enough defined scope out there.
I've worked with Epic and I've worked with Torcon. And I got the feeling that this one firm, Ferguson, I guess they're a similar firm. They can do real big work. They're probably very, very qualified firms. Can they give us the level of service we need? For a cost we can afford. I saw some smaller ones. I guess it was Griffin, who maybe could give us the personal service, but he didn't want to do the construction, which it doesn't make sense to hire a CM that's not going to be out doing the construction work also. So, I mean, from my perspective, I think you really want to get someone in as soon as possible to look at the drawings. Well, not as soon as possible. Look at the drawings when they're 85% complete, offer any comments they may have. So, and also get familiar with the project. Once that's done, I mean, do we really need them to look at the bids? I mean, maybe, but I mean, that's the architects look at the bids, they call the references, they make the recommendations. I guess the CM could help you with that also, but really it's going to come down to during construction. I personally don't know, and Andy's not on the call. I wish he was, but I don't know if we need a full-time rep out there. I think someone giving us 20 hours a week and popping in unexpectedly, throughout the week to see what's going on and how the work's progressing, I think might be enough. Like I've said before, and again, I think Eli should, voice his opinion also. You don't want it to get to the point where the architect figures the CM is doing something and the CM assumes the architect's doing something. So that's really, we got to get the whole team together if we're going to go this way. I'm done.
Andy, would you know the right, if you're on a call with these
No,
owners,
I
reps, candidates?
agree, Andy.
Was that Rich?
Yeah, he's kind of,
I think you
Rich, you're
froze.
glitchy. You have to turn your
You
video off.
froze.
Rich, if you turn your video, there you go. Your audio will come through.
Does that sound better?
Yes, a
Little
little
bit.
bit.
No, Andy, I think your comments are definitely well taken. These are things that we did talk to these folks during the interview process. And we're also very conscious of how myself and Nick Perchinsky and even our building department are going to integrate with these groups, whoever is going to provide that. whether it's 20 hours a week or whatever that number we come up with. But I think the main point is we definitely drawings, whether they're 85, 90% complete prior to bidding. So we don't run into issues during construction where we're constantly getting, what's your term that you use? It's you need to seek an interpretation,
Oh,
you know,
no,
so if
yeah,
there's not a detail that shows something, or
right, clarification,
you
yeah,
know,
right.
the plan itself isn't detailed enough. And those are right, clarifications and things. We want to eliminate, you know, obviously as much as that is possible, and change orders. I know you can't see me, but like pointing at each other saying, no, it's the architect, no, it's on the construction manager, no, it's on the engineer. No, it's in the specification document. I think that's where the value is really added up front before we bid this, given the size of this project, whether it's 12 or $15 million. And then the other piece of it, whether or not we're gonna have somebody review Eli's cost estimates to see if those figure, but that they make sense for this governing body to move forward in a work project.
That could be helpful too, I guess, Rich, but I really, I don't know. I don't know if anyone, the CM's gonna say, yeah, the numbers look reasonable, or he's gonna say they look low, or they say they look high. But I don't know if anyone's gonna, especially now, I don't know if anyone's gonna really be able to tell the borough that, yeah, these numbers are right on, you know, right on the button. I think you gotta go out to
Go
bid.
out there.
Go out to bid, assuming the numbers are accurate. And if they're not, you're gonna reject them. And you're gonna go back and revise the drawings or do whatever to bring them back in. And I mean, you know, to bring the numbers down. By the way, one other thing you made me think of, I'm working on a project right now in Perth Amboy where the building department offered to do a like a courtesy review. So we may want to ask at some point our construction department to do a courtesy review to see if they have any issues, you know, before we go out to bid.
I'm sure they'll do that. We've already spoken about it, Andy.
Yeah, we've
The relationship.
already provided some drawings early on to them
Okay.
to get some feedback. But we definitely would need a more formal review. Because that was my other point too, is we don't want the inspector shows up and says, oh, no, you need to do this. And, you know, now you're stuck between the interpretation of the code and what the detail shows on.
It happens all the time though, Rich. I mean, that's when you, again, I understand the desire to have a construction manager, but I've done many large jobs without them also. And it sounds to me like that's the direction that the borough wants to go in, and that's fine. But you know, I know it's like a broken record here, but you got to know what you're expecting, and that you're getting what you're expecting. And I'm not sure if the borough knows that at this point.
What is the expectation? That's a great question, because what is the expectation for the town for this firm to do, and what authority are they going to have? Is it just having an extra set of eyes, or are they speaking on behalf of the town to any degree? Or like, how, I didn't think that there was not a framework in place around what we were hiring, what we were going
plan.
out to get.
So
You know, like, what were we expecting of this firm to do? I thought that had been decided already.
Yeah,
I think the overarching thought is that the construction manager only looks after the project from the town's perspective, supporting Rich and Nick while they do their regular jobs that they would otherwise do if they didn't have to do anything all day. They're not
Right.
they're not the architect, and they're not trying to squeeze every dime out of the deal so they can make money because they're not the general contractor either. So they're not conflicted. That is for me, that was the value that they bring. I'm interested in others' views. Like, are other people viewing it that way? Maybe Josh, I don't know.
That's my expectation, was I agree. That's what that person should be doing. It should be our sort of eyes and ears and intermediary, so that we're not relying on the GC because his interests could be slightly misaligned with ours. I just worry that we have too many hands in the pot if we have Rich and Nick and Eli's firm and a construction manager who are all in theory on our team, all sort of looking at it and giving opinion and sort of making decisions. Somebody's got to be sort of the point on it. Or do we give up that authority to an owner's rep or a construction manager, or does that lie with Rich, or does it lie with, who has that ultimate say?
Well, ultimately, every meeting would contain, a borough's representative there, and ultimately the borough has the final say. But I think what you're talking about is twofold. One is expertise. And, I make no bones about the fact in my capacity, I manage other people's expertise, and, not having, looking at plans, looking at buildings going up, none of that is certainly in my wheelhouse. And as far as Rich and Nick goes, they have beyond a full plate now of borough responsibilities. Rich did 3 road projects last year. He's director of, engineering public works. The list goes on and on and on if I showed you the org chart. So they don't really have the time to oversee this project on a day-to-day basis. And I suppose they have some level of expertise, but they're not general contractors, and I think that's the point of bringing someone in to work for the borough and to manage this project is really a matter of expertise and manpower.
So most of the public jobs I do, I don't have the benefit of having the borough's engineer with me. It's typically anybody. It could be the administrator, it could be the DPW director, it could be anybody, but they're just there to kind of witness the meeting, to hear things. And sometimes I have to do memos that clarify, what may be happening that they need to go back to the governing body with. So the fact that Rich would be attending those meetings, or Nick or whatever, it's great that they're engineers, but they're really, they don't want to, although they're licensed professionals, they don't want to give direction because we have a contract with that particular general contractor. And what I always say when I have my first pre-construction meeting, I always say to the contractor, there's going to be people around you all the time from the governing, from the town. And I always say that the only direction you take is from my office. If it has to do with cost, if it has to do with time, and you proceed by direction from someone from the town, you're going at your own risk. And I'm going to come back to you and say, this is a situation. There's a change order that we need to process, explain it to you, and then you go back to the governing body, explain to them, they're not happy, but that's construction, that's public work, whatever. So I guess that's kind of what the construction manager would do for you. As an architect, I sometimes have an issue with that because they kind of wedge themselves between the architect and the owner. And, sometimes a story that's told is a little bit different. There might be different viewpoints. So, again, that's why somebody from the town needs to be hearing the conversations that are going on in those meetings. There's a lot of stuff going on outside those meetings too, but you can't hear all that, nor would you want to.
Well, then, Andy, to your point, and points well taken, I think we do need to go back and look at Eli's proposal and scope as it is beyond the bidding phase. Teresa, I haven't had a chance to do that. I think you may have sent it to me recently
I sent it
to see what, to see what that scope is. and also eliminate a potential overlap with whoever that owner's rep may be, or even my time for that matter. So,
In the contract, Rich, and I haven't had a chance to review it myself
yeah,
yet.
and that could all be done fairly quickly. I mean, we
Yeah.
can take a look at all that this week.
He's got a construction phase services, it's 3.6 on, which is what I really wanted to look at. I can take a stab if you'd like. I could take a stab at the scope of services and get it out to the committee to look at, but I'm just going to be making assumptions as to what I think the borough wants. If, you know, I can do that fairly easily if you'd like me to do that.
No, I think that would be good. And Andy, obviously, you and I worked on projects prior to me coming to Fairhaven.
Mhm.
So, you know, I do understand your experience and knowledge in this. So, yeah.
Okay.
All right, I got 2 little kids I got to put to bed because it's late. Do we have, Teresa, do you need me for anything
I
else?
think we're good, Rich. This is a small
All right,
group left
thanks,
here, but
guys.
I only want to make one other comment, that, everything that I shared with the SHPO and Laura Berwind and CDBG, I forwarded, to the Historic Commission in real time. And like I said, we were under tight time constraints to get that grant application in. But Laura also made a presentation to the governing body before we got our blessing to put the grant application in. So it's not as if, that went on in the dark of night. So, I'm not gonna, everyone that works in this capacity is a volunteer, but, knowing me, I don't work in a vacuum or a bubble by myself. I share things with, the governing body, with, the mayor and the committee, and ultimately with the Historic Commission, as time went on. So, if we're gonna go back to square one here, then I'm gonna have to work with Laura's office, get a proposal to, resubmit all of that, redesign it, send it back out to, SHPO, go through whatever hearings we need to go through. That's really, that's really up to you guys.
If it's less permanent, do we need to do that? I mean, it didn't sound like we would.
Well, because of the fact that they granted us the ADA being a common entrance, I distinctly remember that they were very hot on that. That's one of the reasons why. And I sent through all those emails with the back and forth and the commentary on them to everybody. At the time, I could recirculate them, but I'm not trying to defend anything except to say that this went through the paces to get where we got, and if we're going to change that, so be it. I still stand by the fact that I think we're making a mistake to make that something that we're going to set up and take down for meetings on a regular basis. It's just impractical from my perspective. I think you'd be better off to rethink the space and let the library have programming in Bicentennial Hall, and keep the mayor and council chambers the way they are currently. Just my 2 cents on that, but that's up to, ultimately whatever you guys want to make work, I'll make work.
I was thinking the same thing, Teresa, that are we now trying to force a particular use into that building? If we're, we're talking about not having a dais, or having a dais, or temporary, or, permit, whatever. I don't know, maybe it's not the right use there. And maybe we should be, we've spent time and dollars on this already, I know, but we don't want to continue down just because we've spent some money on it, on a bad decision. So maybe we have to step back on this thing. I tossed out a while ago, and I'm going to continue to toss it out. And would this be better suited as a library? A standalone library?
Yeah, Andy, I mean, I like the idea, but what I heard is the main concern from the historic preservation is they didn't like the flow. So now you're gonna have rows of books. What does that do to the flow of the building?
I mean, two things, Josh. I mean, one is we could look at it. I was thinking about the stacks on the side of the building and all that stuff. But I don't want to be harsh, but the commission isn't coming up with the cash. So we could just continue as we've been doing for years and let the building, be demolished by neglect. So we're looking.
That was my
What's
next
that?
point was going to be, I know that the community center is still, hi Betsy. I know that the community
I've
center,
been with you the whole time. I'm finally home.
I know that the community center is still, a structure at this point, and it won't be eventually. But how much, we're talking about, oh, we want the community to use this building. How much is it being used right now? I'm assuming it's available right now, no?
It gets used. I just got a note. I know the Little Silver Boy Scout troop used it to do a meeting last week, just because I'm on their email distribution. I know, we do, the Cub Scouts did a meeting in there 3 weeks ago. The community center gets used. Are you asking the Bicentennial Hall usage or the community center?
No, Bicentennial Hall.
Oh, I haven't seen the lights on in there. in a little while.
Andy touched on neglect. That's a
Recording
concern of mine that we're not going. I got some feedback there. We're not going to put the dais in there, and then it's just going to be an empty meeting space that no one uses. And I'm having trouble with why the dais prevents people from using the hall. Yeah, it blocks off one section of the room, right where the front doorway is currently, but it doesn't block any of the rest of the room. And to hear that people that are going to come in there that were originally in the space are going to have difficulty with the fact that it's not set up the way it was. I'm thinking to myself that the whole Bicentennial Hall isn't even where it originally existed. So, I'm having trouble wrapping my hands around it, but I also didn't want to, speak up against the Historic Commission without fully understanding where they're coming from. So
Just, if I could just make a brief comment, that,
Sure.
Rich kind of touched on it during the course of the meeting with the Historic Commission was, what they're talking about is changing the flow 90 degrees. Like, in my opinion, that's more traumatic than having the room physically reversed, right? I mean, the room wants to be oriented, it's basically east and west, right? Long ways, not the other way around. Like, so changing it sideways is not,
the sideways,
that's worse. I would argue.
Dan, I totally agree. The sideways option to me, when I saw the schematic and I'm thinking about that and the wall is, 15 feet in front of you, it made no sense to me whatsoever.
With the glass stained windows behind, it doesn't make sense. And
But
just
Laura-
on the
I thought Laura
dais,
was very patient there because
yes, she was.
you got, at some point, you have to give credit to the design professional. And that putting it sideways like that, you don't make it a meeting room if you go sideways like that. It's stupid.
And,
I
The
mean,
and it
it
dais
does,
doesn't work, the professional area doesn't work, the seating area doesn't work.
and you do need a dais. Like we want to. This needs to be a professional setting. You need a dais. The council or planning board or whatever board is sitting there should be on an elevated dais. We're going to go. It's going to be more technologically based, right? You're going to want to see plans on a screen in front of you, not rolling out, big sheets of paper, which is ridiculous nowadays. You want to have the raised floor so you can do the technology, and it should sit there. Like, the fact that we could take it away if we needed to, right? You could take the raised floor out if you wanted to at some point. Yeah, maybe that happens once a year, but I think 99% of the time, this thing is set up all the time. That's the way it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree. And in a perfect world, I'd like to see the dais truthfully in the back of the room, but I understand there's some sort of issue with that choir box. I guess I just have a different viewpoint. We don't have that much infrastructure in town, and we have an opportunity here to use this setting in a very functional way. I don't see this place as a museum. I see this place as an active part of our community. You know, I gotta tell you, being in the basement, I know I've only been there a month, but I find it somewhat embarrassing. I have to look
It
around
is.
columns and pillars.
It's depressing.
Ha-
It is-
Having, listen, I've lived in town, gone to meetings in that room for whatever, 20-something years. And I've been going to meetings in other towns. I mean, all due respect, like ours is, if not the worst, it's one of the worst. Seabright's old meeting room was probably the worst. But you go to like Freehold has a facility not entirely different from Bicentennial Hall. And it actually has some character to it. So utilizing that building for this purpose in a professional manner, like that actually adds some character to the building, in my opinion.
Betsy, you're on
Betsy,
mute.
you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Can I make a suggestion? I was
Absolutely.
married to a structural engineer, and I know you can take those pillars out. You can put in headings, you can put in structural steel that will take out all of those pillars. I actually think that we could make the basement of Borough Hall workable if we take out those pillars. I really don't think, after what I've listened to everybody talk about, I don't think Bicentennial Hall is going to work. There's no way that we can ever reduce the sound distortion. I mean, it's terrible in there. You can't talk without,
Hard, yeah.
Yeah, there's no soft surfaces to absorb the sound. That's the biggest
there's
issue.
nothing, you can hang, and they do that, they hang baffers to try and absorb the sound. I don't think that's ever gonna work in Bicentennial Hall. But if we go to Borough Hall and we take out those pillars and put in headers, steel beams that will absorb the weight of the stories above them, that might work. And it might be a little bit less expensive.
If I could, just again, spitballing. If we could make the library work at Bicentennial Hall, you could move your meeting room up into the existing library space. And then use the basement area for, you know, what you call your soft impact meeting rooms or whatever.
Can I make a suggestion that I'll actually give some credit to Chris for, because I actually think it's a good one. What if we hosted a test meeting there?
What?
What if we hosted a council meeting there
Where?
at Bicentennial Hall and see how it goes, like a
We
test
did.
run?
We did a council meeting at Bicentennial Hall when we had the actual first grand opening of it, Josh. It was our organization
Yeah.
meeting. We just used tables up front for the mayor and council, and
Yeah.
public came, I believe. I could be
2012.
wrong, but I think we might have even had a couple of the pews in there just for show, and then we put chairs behind them. It was
I
a
think
packed meeting.
Susan-
It had to
Susan
be
was
10 years
sworn
ago.
in on that meeting.
What's
Yeah.
that?
I said Susan was sworn in.
Yeah,
that
that's what
meeting.
I remember too, yeah.
I think a lot has changed. I think just living and experiencing it, we could probably learn a lot from that experience. Not saying we have to do it on the December 20th meeting, but maybe a January meeting. We do one meeting there and see how it goes. And we'll learn a lot just by being in it and having a full meeting. Just an idea.
We'll make
If
whatever
it
you want to
totally
make happen,
sucked-
we'll make happen.
If it totally sucks, we just saved a few $100,000 for the taxpayers, and it
But-
doesn't cost us anything to do it.
No, but think about that for a minute though, because like Betsy said, the acoustics are terrible in there. So you're gonna have a meeting. You're gonna have public there, and if the acoustics are gonna be terrible, are we gonna lose? If you want to keep on going that way, are you gonna lose support from the public because they're gonna?
Not
Say,
necessarily. I've gone to meetings there and I don't I don't recall the acoustics being what I'm hearing, and it just, if we experience it and we
Okay.
understand it, then we can do better. I mean, it was almost like when we were gonna cut down the trees on Third Street. People simply didn't walk there. They looked at a bunch of pieces of paper. We shuffled them around. We decided to cut the trees down. The town threw a fit. We walked it and go, yeah, we probably don't need to take these trees down. Because we actually went to the place and looked
Okay.
at the thing, and that is worth doing, I think.
And the acoustics can be addressed. I mean, there are definitive ways to actually put panels up to deal with it.
I'd be interested in hearing what Teresa, you were saying about, was she- was-
Anne Marie said that there's.
like a white noise kind of thing?
No,
Yeah,
it's like a,
something
it's like a
that.
noise
And, yeah, I'd have-
cancellation.
I'm not gonna put words in her mouth, but she did say that there is technology available that you don't have to use panels anymore, that they use some sort of sound canceling technology, whatever that may be, Andy.
Right, there's a series of speakers and mics that will actually cancel out that reverberation like throughout the building. It's pretty,
I-
it's
I know
pretty
they use
impressive
them- They
technology.
use something like that in courtrooms also when
Yeah.
the judge and the, whatever's sidebar.
I mean, I think like, so I'll throw something out there. So I think if we move away from using Bicentennial Hall as a more active space for the town in terms of meetings and whatnot, you know, we're still spending a lot of money to do ADA compliant work there. I think there has to be a lot of effort put into still bringing it more into the fold of what the town does and making it more of an active space, because, you know, I've lived here for 21 years now, and I've been in it twice, and that's in the last year. You know, there's just not, you know, for me, maybe it's my, you know, my position in town at this point in time, or like my, you know, my kids' activities and stuff never really brought me there. But if we're going to continue to spend the money to just have it sit empty most of the time, it seems like a waste of money. Just don't do it. Like, I mean, you're going to spend $300,000 to make improvements to the building. And it's going to sit there, and in 5 or 6 years or 10 years, you're going to have to do it again. For what reason? Like, I think there really has to be a plan for it if we're going to actually spend the money to use it as council chambers or not. I think there really has to be some thought put into bringing it back into the fold, because it's almost a disservice to the building and to the town to say, here, we have this building, it looks great. Yeah, that's nice, but we never use it. You know,
Is
you
it,
know,
is the intent of this building, like, it, you know, are we gonna allow people to have parties? Like, where's the line gonna be drawn on, you know, if you just keep it as an open space and someone wants to go have a party there, Sweet 16, are you gonna say no to them?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have a list of rules that
There are.
Yeah.
are attached to it, and what you can and can't do in there. A Sweet 16 party where they decorated it and, you know, put tape up, that would not fit the bill.
Right. Okay, good.
Now,
Yeah,
you
we
know-
generated those usage guidelines a little while back.
Mhm. And you could look at it again, Chris, if you wanted to. I mean, I think they came in through one of the committees. I can't even remember.
I wrote them and Susan
There you go.
updated them, and then they got approved by the council, I think.
That sounds like how it went down, something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I wrote them.
And, you know, $184,000 from the CDBG grant, you know, even if you decide not to go with the council chambers in there, I'd have to recirculate and relook at the estimates, but you still could put in the parking lot and the new ramp. And I think if you want to have any type of meeting space there, your bathroom facilities would have to be upgraded regardless, because it's tied to the number of people you can host, how big your bathroom facilities have to be, that we went over. So, you know, you still could invest in that building, but if you left the dais out, I don't know how much you're actually saving. You know, I'd have to go back and look at the estimates.
Well, then what are you using it for? I mean, Bob, to your question, I'm with you on that one. I've been in a building, you know, twice, and once was for a swearing in, and that was, you know, 10 years ago.
So I think once the community center goes away, people start using it because it will happen out of necessity. I mean, that's the most simple answer I can give. With the lack of other open space indoors, people will start, they will know to go there, and we'll push them there because that's going to be the space that we have.
And they're gonna go there once or twice and go, this is the worst place to be. Too loud. Way, way too loud.
Well, I guess it depends on the meeting. Like if it's the garden club and there's, 10 or 12 folks there, they kind of sit around a table, right? I mean, or if it's a shade tree and 6 people show up to the meeting and Susan O'Brien, which is pretty much how it works. It's just not gonna be that, I don't know that it's gonna be that loud, but it really depends on what you're talking about.
I've been there with 5 people. It's too loud. We need baffles. We need something to absorb the sound.
What, just to jump, I don't make us, I don't want to stray us, but, and I know it's getting late, but how do you see the relationship with the schools as far as using their facilities continuing after our new facilities are built? Do you folks see, continuance of that?
Right now, Andy, we have a very good relationship with the superintendent and the Board of Education, and I think it's very likely that they'll accommodate us. They will not accommodate us during the school day at all, and maybe even for that brief window after school, because they can't have outsiders in there when kids are in there for safety reasons. But once the school's closed, if they wanted to have, men's basketball or Boy Scouts or things like that, and they have the ability, I think they'll accommodate us. But that doesn't mean that that couldn't change if for whatever reason the Board of Ed decided they needed it for school activities, or it was too much wear and tear in the building. I mean, I can't predict what a future Board of Ed or a future superintendent will say to the borough when it comes to utilizing their space. We do let them utilize, Carter Park, so it's I don't want to say quid pro quo, but we do have a good working relationship with them, and right now I don't think it's going to be an issue.
They have meeting spaces in there?
Is there space at Fairhaven Fields upstairs above the concessions or no?
There is,
But it's
it's
very,
not handicap. It's not handicap access.
It's
But
pretty
it's-
limited.
It's small, it's
Yeah,
limited.
it's pretty
It's
limited.
limited.
Okay,
And the
Okay.
bathrooms, if you're at a meeting at night, you don't have bathroom facilities in there.
And
Right.
it's it's sort of a gigantic storage locker. It's filled
Yeah,
with
that's
stuff.
more what it is.
so
Which is fine.
except for those 9 things, it might work.
We got to get one of those chair lifts where you sit on the chair and it sort of glides up the stairs. It's a pretty steep set of stairs too.
Yeah.
Just to my point, though, that I think that is something the council has to continue to work on. And I think, Teresa, to your point, if the board ever decided that they weren't gonna, allow that, I mean, we're all one community, so if they're not gonna let us use their facilities, then it's up to the mayor and council to share that with the public. And the public needs to know that, the board isn't playing fair with us, but it would be
Right now,
nice to have.
I'm very positive, Andy. I'm only making the point that I don't know what could happen 3 or 4 years down the road. I can't speak for that. But right now, I have the assurances of the superintendent that particularly now that Sickles is going to open, they have a lot more availability of space than they used to have, because they built a whole new common space room there, or meeting room there.
There's just places around. When Father Bob was over the Nativity, and I had a pretty good relationship with him, I'd have meetings over in the classrooms over at the church. So there's places in town where we can do certain things. We just have to ask, I guess.
Yeah, Nativity's been very good. They let us host our elections there. They're pretty,
Yeah.
decent also.
I'm actually sleeping on my feet right now.
I don't know whether we want to recircle back with this group or with the governing body. My issue is I didn't come away from this meeting with any clear instructions of how I'm moving forward or where I'm going. I guess we'll wait and see what the Historic Commission decides next week. And if they send you a letter saying that they're not at all interested in, the current design of the building and we got to go back to square one, well, then we're going to have to make some decisions on where we move from there. Is that a fair estimate?
Yeah, I think Tuesday is gonna be upon us faster than we know, and then we could, make a decision as a group. And then make a recommendation to the council.
Okay,
Or the council could just take the recommendation from the historical commission.
true. You put it back on your public agenda and take a look at that.
But we don't have a meeting till the 20th, so we may meet again here before that happens.
Yeah, this group, I think, meets again on the 14th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so we'll get another
13th.
bite at the apple.
We'll know
Is it
what they
brush-
say.
Is the brush grind done? Do you know if that's finished?
The grind itself, I think, should be done by tomorrow, and I think they're gonna start hauling on Friday, Chris.
Okay.
Teresa, what meeting are you proposing for the 14th?
Facilities.
Facilities, I have to
It's
look
every-
on my calendar, but
It's
well,
every
actually,
2
it's the 13th. It would be 14th.
13th.
Tonight is the 14th.
Okay,
That's our
Check.
standing facilities committee meeting.
No other business? Do we have anything else?
And I would imagine our agenda for the next meeting will be similar. It'll be Bicentennial Hall and the owner's rep. And by that time, I also should have some cost estimates from Eli, updated cost estimates.
Did
Where-
Eli
where-
get the owner's rep documents the same as we did?
Did he get them? No. The thought was that, we didn't necessarily want Eli choosing the owner's rep. And, although he's more than willing to participate, my marching orders were that we probably make that decision internally and not include him at this juncture.
I think that says something right there. I do. I think you're looking at then somebody to watch the architect also.
Well, we want them to watch everything, the suppliers, not the supply chain, but the delivery of stuff from vendors, the filings with the state, like everything, and the architect. I think any unions or, any contractor or subcontractor, I think it's a big, wide ranging, I'm
Well,
preaching to the
if
choir
you-
here,
if-
man.
What I just heard you say, then you're talking about a Torcon or an Epic or a Ferguson or whatever.
That's my view. I don't suggest that everybody views it the same way I do, but it's not a babysitter for Eli, no. It's a babysitter for everything.
Where did I, maybe I missed it. Where did we leave off with that? I heard that we needed to identify a scope of services. But where are we at with the owner's rep? Like, what's the next step?
Rich and Andy, we're gonna look at that together and kind of come back with some sort of a synopsis for the group here. Am I
Okay.
correct there?
Well, yeah, and then I guess Chris will add to it. Because I really, I don't know. I think we have to get back to the general contractor being responsible for his work, the architect being responsible for his work, the owner being responsible to make decisions. And we want to have a owner's rep to, help the town as far as manpower is concerned, that's fine, but I don't know.
Sounds like
If
we
the
need
if
someone
the
to be
CM's gonna be
responsible.
watching the vendors and the suppliers and, wow, that's a lot.
Well, then they need to own the contract, right? I mean, that's basically what how that's.
You're looking like for a,
It's sort of quality assurance, like if Rich isn't gonna be there to check in the pallets. And the contractor, whether you trust them or not, I mean, they're gonna be low bidder. When they come in, they're low bidder. And we hopefully they're reputable, but they're not accountable to us. They're accountable to their own bottom line. And they're gonna put a building up. We're gonna try to put up the best building we can. And hopefully the owner's reps can help us do that.
Yeah,
Mayor.
I gotta be honest, guys. I go to Volvo to get parts changed in my car. listen, I don't think they're screwing up my car, but I'm not trusting them to make the best decision on my behalf. They're looking at their bottom line and how much they charge me for things on when they tell me I need to replace a part. I'm assuming it's the same with construction.
Well, I think you guys have to understand though, too. I mean, you're not talking about like, you know, some like fly by night, like construction company that's putting up a building here. I mean, you're talking about firms that do municipal and public structures, and their reputation's on the line. I mean, they're not looking to like mess with anybody. You know, they're not looking to like short you on a pallet or are they going to try to get the best cost to maximize their bottom line and our cost? Absolutely. I mean, are they ultimately like responsible for their bottom line? Yes, but if they're always looking out for the bottom line, they're not going to be in business for all that long because people just aren't going to use them. You know, I mean, you have to put some trust into like the fact that these guys are not, you know, we're not talking about, you know, Fred's like contracting company here. I mean, you're talking about guys who do multi-million-dollar contracts as a matter of course, and their reputation is that's what they do. They're responsible for it. And in the end, if we hate them and the word gets out, they're done. I mean, honestly, they're done. You know, there's not much that they can do about that. So I think there's like a fine balance between trusting them and looking out for our own interests, and maybe the owner's rep is our solution for that. I personally think it's a little bit overkill to have so many layers because it could slow things down a bit, and there could be a lot of crosstalk and a lot of overlap. But you know, it's not my, you know, well, I guess it is my $15 million or $12 million. I mean, my little piece of it, you know, that I pay. But I just think we have to be careful, you know, how much control we want to put into place at a very fine level. I mean, there's a balance that has to be struck there.
You're paying an architect with quite a bit of experience, and I think I've heard Eli say more than once that he's done more public buildings in New Jersey than any other architect. So I got to trust him on that. But so you're paying this architect to develop the set of plans of what you need. And I'm assuming, you know, again, you've gone through that with him and these are the spaces you need. You're going to have in those drawings what the finishes are, what the construction, you're going to have everything. It's going to tell you what kind of oil filter you want when you go to the Volvo dealership there, Josh. It's all that stuff should be in there, and you should be as familiar or familiar enough with those documents that you know what you're getting. Okay, and that's why Eli meets with us, you know, as often as he does, whatever. Then it's up to the contractor to build it according to those drawings. And if you're going to have a CM, then it's up to the CM and the architect to make sure he's building it according to those drawings, according to those documents. So that's what it comes down to. So, you know, if the documents will say it should be built in 12 months, 14 months, then the architect or the CM is keeping up with the schedule. You know, we're falling behind here. How are we going to make up the time? You know, I don't know. I'm babbling now. It is getting late and I'm missing my glass of wine.
I see an owner's rep, the way I look at it as an insurance on a huge investment by the borough. That's what I see it. And, you know, Bob, I heard you when you said, you know, that their reputation is on the line. You know, the construction company or the architect that put together that Seabright Police Department, their reputation is on the line too. And now they're the butt of jokes about ceilings in a jail cell that are too low and can't be used. So stuff does happen. And quite truthfully, it ends up being, you know, the council and the mayor's reputation on the line too. When you put together this type of expenditure, you want to make sure it's right. So if I have the opportunity to make a decision based on a small percentage of cost of an entire job that will ensure that it gets done the right way, and maybe we check a few extra T's and dot a few I's to get there. It's interesting. All of these owners reps, as they try to sell us. They keep saying to us that we're going to keep the job on time. We're going to keep it moving along. Which I don't know that that's true, but that's what they're saying to us, that in a way they're expediting the project by ensuring that it's seamless and everyone's on the same page. So
Yeah.
that's just my last thought on it.
I didn't misrepresent my resume 10 years ago or 11 years ago. I don't have any experience in building one, let alone two public buildings at the same time. And, having said that, I struggle with, even when Eli sends me things, or when things come in from, Colliers Engineering to review even the scope or the spec or what they're trying to get us to even bring in, I don't have that expertise. That's just a given. And I think that, I make no bones about that. And having someone help manage this project, even from the cost estimates to looking at the drawings to, making sure the buildings are going up in a timely manner, Eli's, all of that, I think we need, and I don't think we can rely on Rich and Nick to do it unless we completely change what their current scope of services are to the borough. I'm not saying they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it along with everything else they're doing now.
And I understand that. I'm not even suggesting that because, again, you have licensed professionals and you're lucky to have them, but they're also owners. And I don't think you as an owner want Rich out there directing. You absolutely don't want that. That it should again fall on the architect and on the contractor and the CM if you go that direction. So anytime, I just think you need ears there. And Teresa, if it's not you and it's not Rich and it's not Nick, there should be somebody there that's listening, for the borough also, besides the CM.
Betsy, are you available to do that?
Do what?
The joke.
Go to the meetings.
Hey, Andy, don't get me wrong. I'll attend every one of those meetings.
Face.
I'll attend every one of those meetings, Andy, and I'll take notes and I'll follow
Don't scare
along.
me.
But I certainly don't have the expertise to challenge anything I hear.
Nope, that's why you have professionals. That's why you have to speak to Eli or whoever you hire.
All right, I have to go to the bathroom and I need water and I'm hungry.
All right, and Indiana's in double overtime right now.
Oh,
It's killing me.
all right,
Wait,
then we'll
wait,
circle back
wait.
on the 14th.
Wait, what about Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame? My mom's
Whoa,
favorite football team. Oh my God.
why
It's
is
the
he
worst
leaving?
thing- it's the
Why
worst
does
thing
anybody
that's
else leave?
happened.
Money. Of course it's money.
Really?
Yes.
You think it's all about money?
Hey, it's
And
going to the Jets.
you did it in the middle
Ask
of the
Max
night.
Scherzer.
Yeah,
That's so disappointing.
they make a lot of money these days.
Oh, so disappointing. Anyway, when are we meeting again? When are we doing this?
We'll meet the 14th, and I think by that time, we're gonna have whatever the Historic Commission decides. We're gonna have updated cost estimates from Eli, and we're gonna have at least something from Andy and Rich where they're reviewing the post-bidding services of Eli to see if, they feel as if we can come up with at least a scope of work for the construction manager, or whether or not they feel that we still need a construction manager. That fair?
Sounds good.
Okay,
Yep.
I think we're good.
Good.
Anybody else?
Good.
Good night, guys.
Thank you.
Night.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.